Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Josh Phegan Digital. Dean, one of the great opportunities, we saw that you got to have is that you had the day with the Swans and you get the chance to go and take the whole Di Jones team there, and really got me starting to think about, the future is talent. And, when you look at an organisation and whether or not it's AFL or whether or not it's rugby, that, what's really important is about developing that next rung of talent. And if you have a look inside of the tennis industry, with Roger Federer and those have kind of, stayed at the top for a long period of time. And there's going to be an era where new talent's actually got to come through. And this is kind of an interesting thing, that the future really is talent inside of any organisation, and whoever can scale and build and develop and grow that talent the fastest is probably the ones that are going to win. I hear a lot of people tell me that it's hard to recruit a property manager, or hard to get a good head of PM, or how to get a good head of sales, or how to get a great, dominant agent in a marketplace. And I'm thinking, there's acquisition of talent, there's also growing talent, and, understanding your role in that every lead agent's got to have another agent next to them that they're growing for the future of the business and all of those things. I have a look at the amount of talent that has been developed by you, or that has come through your school of growth. And when you think about that over the period, it's a lot of key agents that have gone on to do wonderful things across the industry in many different markets. The thing that I want you to think about today, if the future is talent, then does that mean that you can't grow tired of teaching the basics and the core of what it takes to be a great agent? And does that mean that, you've got to be developing talent in new and better ways and using technology to assist, and just starting to think differently about, what you would need to do to develop the best talent in industry? And if you do that, you probably don't have to worry too much about anything else if you know how to grow great people, and you've got some foundational training platforms, but some foundational ideas, concepts, ideas and beliefs that can get people, from zero to hero in the best form possible, and be able to keep them there consistently for a long period of time.
For sure. Look, I think that with any great success story with nurturing talent, requires so many base layers of things, right? I mean, certainly learning the process, giving them exposure to other successful people, challenging them to think bigger than what they're possibly thinking, setting goals. I mean, there's so many things that go into someone's success or not. And a lot of it's got to do with their own self-belief and their own attitudes around their ability to do something, and their desire, and in our industry, a lot of resilience and all that sort of stuff. Because it's if it was simple, everyone would do it, and we all know it's not that easy. So yeah, but what I have learned, Josh, is that I think that for you to be successful, whatever got us to be successful in the past is not necessarily going to get us to be the same level of success going forward. And I think that people try new things, and they're innovative, in their early days of starting out as an agent or as an agency, and then they get to a level of success, and then they sort of stop doing that. And then over time, things can catch up with you. And I think that we're at a really crucial point in the whole real estate industry around how talent will succeed into the future. Because I sort of look at, there are really highly established people that got great relationships and know who a buyer is, and know how to match a property up, and know how to get a property sold, and all those things, right? And that's always going to have a lot of value. In fact, I think that's going to become more valuable over time. That sort of power of the human connection, and talented people who can have that, who can have that personal interaction and deliver value to someone in that moment of stress, and create a really beautiful experience for them, is going to win, right? And technology will never replace that expertise, right? But I think success of talent going forward is to learn, I think, how we can better leverage technology to enhance the experience, right? To enhance communication, to make things faster for us, right? I mean, when I first started, the whole thing was, you used the CRM, which was pretty archaic, and then, it was letterbox drops, and we did deal cards, and that was when we were sort of still advertising in newspapers and all that stuff, and it was different, right? It was a different way of doing it, and things have moved on well past that. And I think that
I was going to nearly say, what was it like back then? But mate, I had newspapers as well, mate. It's fine.
I still remember carrying, stopping at a telephone in the old days before real estate, actually trying to put money in telephone box that had a paddle pop stick stuck in there. So I go back too far. But you know what I have learned coming from my dinosaur ages is really is that technology is here to help talent, right?
So amplify though, right? So that literally, so if the technology can replicate what we do in the real world, it can actually help us to do more of those things and therefore scale the moments that matter. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think we can accelerate the talent a lot faster because you are right. I mean, if you think about it, it could be a superpower because, you know, it wasn't that long ago we didn't have virtual tours and, you know, now we've got automated marketing platforms and then there's AI powered lead generation and all this stuff, and it frees up time if it's leveraged correctly, right? So I reckon we can get talent moving a lot faster and make talented people more effective by using technology to give us more time to spend with our clients. So for me, I think it's a really exciting time for continuous learning, right? Because the landscape we're operating in is constantly changing. And if we commit to learning new platforms and staying update on the latest, you know, what's happening to because our clients are expecting us to know that stuff, right? And the next generation of talented agents are going to come into an environment and expect to have access to those sorts of tools and resources, as are savvy clients wanting to have a different type of experience with a real estate agent going forward. And that's why we're seeing, you know, so much change from a technology perspective in our industry. It's because everyone's trying to figure out how do they make this process easier, you know, because, you know, for example, for you to become a trusted advisor in a marketplace, you know, again, learning how to use platforms, you can gather so much information and content, allowing you to become coming up to speed much quicker with market trends and key stats and all those things. That, like, it was pretty hard to drag a lot of that stuff out before. Like, I remember having to go through the internet way back and sort of have to put my own tallies to tally stuff up and quantify numbers. I mean, all that happens now at a press of a button. So I think what we should be thinking about is how do you get the perfect combination between someone's, you know, God-given talent, their innate ability to make a difference
and influence,
and influence, and combine that with what's available. And I think that if we can imagine a world where, you know, you've got, you know, customized marketing materials and quality leads coming through from, you know, AI chatbots for if you want to call it that. You know, think about scheduling viewings at a single click. And there's so many things that I think that we can supercharge our productivity, right? And take a talented person and help them become more effective. So I think if we focus on what we do best and free ourselves from tedious tasks and automate stuff and, you know, all these things, I think we can actually make talent fly a lot faster.
Yeah, the interesting thing too is that, you know, Dean, like really stripping it back, and I know that you're a master of doing that, like in your IM teams, which a lot of people would call property management in the rest of the industry, but starting to say, okay, great, what does it take to be a great property manager? And normally when you think about those rules, it's like arrears and routines and ingoings and outgoings and entries and exits and whatever. And you've thought about that differently, about how much can that be done by concierge versus how much can that be done in changing roles, right?
Exactly, because sometimes you're not finding the person's best talent because they're bogged down in stuff that's not productive, right? So, you know, for us, we were like, well, for a tenant to get a great experience, who's going to be the right person to manage that interaction? And in many cases, the tenant doesn't really care as long as they get what they need to get done as quickly as possible, right?
By someone who knows and is friendly and lovely and solutions orientated,
as opposed to their email getting buried, you know, in email, and they get a 4-day later response. So, you know, if they can get a phone answered in 3 rings, or they can use a piece of technology to interact with your platform to get a faster result, then you're unlocking your talent in your business to do other things, you know. So it's also a reshaping of talent, because then you start saying, well, the person who used to deal with the repairs and maintenance and the processes, they don't need to do that anymore. So now what do they deal with? They deal with more of a conversation with the customer, which is a value add as opposed to maintenance requests. And then the people who are on the concierge line are typically 18 to 25-year-old females who love service, who are maybe at uni, and they just want to provide a great experience for the tenant on the other end. Now that's a different way for us to think about how you can use talent in a business when you combine it with technology innovation.
And this is a great conversation about, like, how easy do I make it? So, you know, really simple things is like the usage of forms, you know, digital forms that can actually speed you through a conversation. And you got to remember that dialogue is designed to improve the speed of the conversation and also to increase conversion. And thinking about how those tech tools are actually going to make your people better inside of the conversations that they're having with consumers. And then also to be getting smarter around what it is that you actually want to train people on. So, you know what, we don't have to train them in 1,000,001 things, but they do need to know how to facilitate those key things. So if they're going to take an offer, maybe it's technology like props, for example, where they can use that to facilitate as an in-person experience as well as being able to do that in a digital experience. If they're having a conversation around what they're doing in terms of, what we do in a listing presentation, then being able to pull those key numbers, so that they understand how to sell and tell the story about the brand to be able to get a higher fee. They're important things. But what we do know is this: every single person in your organization has got an expiry date on them, whether or not you like it or not, including yourself. And ultimately, off the back of that, how are you developing the next person who's going to take over, who's going to take that baton and allow that business to be enduring and to be one of the great companies that cements itself inside of residential real estate. And our job is always to think that you are in the game of developing the talent. And sometimes that's not the new talent. Sometimes it's the existing talent that's already inside of the business and unlocking their potential, right?
Well, I reckon the future of real estate belongs to those who leverage both human talent with tech innovation, right? And I think if you can do that going forward and you embrace that exciting shift, then you'll watch your business soar.